The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets is a collection of photo tutorials for beginners that will take you all the way from the basics to the more advanced stuff. It is now available for purchase worldwide anywhere you typically buy books, and there is also a direct link in the description. Hello, my name is Masha Nuts, and today I'm going to teach you how to make this beautiful twisted chevron bracelet. This is such a cool bracelet to make. The double chevron literally comes apart, twists, and then comes back together again. That is one of the coolest things that I've ever done in bracelet making, I think. I'll leave the pattern linked in the description in case you find that more helpful to follow. And I also have timestamps throughout this video so you can skip around and get to the section that you really want, because I'm also going to be explaining how to do the triangle start and the triangle end. And if you're doing a different kind of start, maybe that isn't helpful for you. So those timestamps are there specifically for you to skip around. I absolutely love this bracelet. It's also very simple because it's just a double chevron. So if you've made the chevron before, maybe you're feeling up to make this as well. I would say this is a beginner bracelet, but maybe not as your first bracelet, and definitely make some chevrons before you try this. Just regular single chevrons. I have a tutorial for that as well. In fact, that's the bracelet I recommend you start with, so I'll leave that linked in the description. And also throughout this tutorial, I expect that you know what the basic knots are. We're just going to be talking about forward and backward knots, and I won't really be showing how to make them, I'll just be telling you which ones to make. I have a separate tutorial on how to make the basic knots, and I'll leave that linked in the card and in the description for you as well. But all that being said, let's actually get into this tutorial to make this super fun bracelet. So for this bracelet, just like the regular chevron, you can use as many colors as you like. The more colors and the more strings that you use, the bigger your bracelet will be and the longer it will take you to finish. I'm using 4 colors. If you are doing a loop like me, which I recommend, you are going to need 2 strings per color, roughly 2 meters in length. If you're not doing a loop, you're going to need 4 strings per color, roughly 1 meter in length. So as with really any friendship bracelet, there are multiple ways to start this. I'm going to show you my favorite way, which includes the basic loop and triangle ends coming off from that. And I promise you, it's not that difficult. Hear me out. I will also explain an easier way if that's not really something you want to go for, but I promise this isn't too hard. The basic loop is just a series of forward and backward knots. I'm not going to explain it here. I have a separate tutorial on how to do those. Just to save time, I'm going to link to that in the card and in the description, but I will explain the triangle ends in just a second. If this isn't how you want to start your bracelet, and if you just want to do a regular overhand knot for a loop or something like that, it will make your bracelet bunch up a little bit at the start, because that's just how overhand knots are. By making triangle ends, you're spreading the strings out, making them not bunch up at the start, whereas with an overhand knot, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you want to start that way, which is how I believe I started the chevron tutorial when I made that originally, then you can just arrange your strings symmetrically with the first color that you want on both sides. So if I'm starting with a blue, which I am, there will be 1 blue string each at the sides and 2 in the center, and then you would go in with all of the other strings you want to follow that. So if my dark blue string is going to be followed with a light blue string, I would have a dark blue, light blue, then dark pink, light pink on the left, same on the right, dark blue, dark pink, light pink, and then from the middle I would have 2 dark blue strings in the middle, then a light blue, then a dark pink, then a light pink. So it'll be sort of a symmetrical shape like that. And you can also see that highlighted on the pattern that I'm showing on screen as well. And in that case, if you were to start your bracelet like that with just an overhand knot, you would arrange your strings like that, and you would literally just start making the chevron shapes, which would be a chevron on the left side and the chevron on the right side, which we're going to get into in the tutorial as well. I'm just sort of explaining how you would start in that scenario. In my case, I did a basic loop. As I said, I have a separate tutorial for that to save time. I'm going to make triangle ends to spread the strings out, to have like a cleaner start so it doesn't bunch up at the beginning. And because of that, the beginning is going to be a little bit different because we're omitting some of the knots to fit into that triangle shape. I will explain the moment we stop making the triangle starts and get into the actual bracelet part. There is also going to be timestamps in the description and hopefully on the timeline, so you can just scroll to the part that you need. So if you are making a regular overhand knot as a loop, you would do that, arrange the strings as I just mentioned, and then just scroll to the tutorial part, skipping all of the bits of how to start your bracelet with a triangle end. But if you're on the fence, I really do recommend trying this way that I'm going to show you now, because it's really not that difficult, I promise. So let's get into it. I've highlighted on the pattern how I want to start the bracelet. Let's just focus on the left side for now. The right side is actually going to be the exact same, so I'm just going to explain one and then tell you to do the same thing on the other. I'm actually going to tape the right side off so it doesn't get in the way. We're going to separate our strings so we have 1 of each on the left and on the right. We're now going to focus on the left side of the left side. which in my case, again, has one of each of the colors that I want. And I'm gonna start bringing them in the order that I want them to appear in the bracelet. So again, that would be the dark blue, dark pink, light pink. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the dark blue string, which is the first one, and I'm gonna make a forward knot onto this entire bundle of strings on the left here. So these 3 strings, I'm gonna make a forward knot onto all 3 of these at once. Just like so. And again, if you don't remember how to do forward knots, there is a separate tutorial for that which goes in depth about all the different types of knots, but hopefully you are familiar with these. So I just did a forward knot with the dark blue. Now I'm gonna put this string off to the side because we're gonna ignore it for now. I'm gonna take the next string, which is this light blue, and I'm gonna make a forward knot onto the remaining strings in the bundle, of which we just have 2. So I'm gonna make a forward knot onto those, ignoring the string that I had already brought out, which is the dark blue one. So we've just done 2 forward knots for now. And finally, the next string that I want to bring out is the dark pink. And we've only got 1 string left other than that, so it's just going to be a normal forward knot with the dark pink onto the light pink here to bring that one out. And then for the last string, we do nothing because it's already in the position that we want it to be. So I'm gonna ignore the left side for now, and now we're gonna focus on the right bit here. And we're gonna do exactly the same thing, except in opposite knots, in backward knots. So I'm taking the dark blue string and I'm gonna make a backward knot on all 3 of these strings together. Next, I'm gonna take the light blue string and make a backward knot on both of the pink strings together, ignoring the blue string that we already brought out. And finally, there's just 2 strings left, so I'm going to take the dark pink string and make a backward knot onto the pink string. And there we have it. All of these strings are in the positions that I want them now, and the triangle end on the left is completed. We do the exact same thing on the right. So I'm gonna go do that off screen and I'll catch up with you in a bit. All right, so now both of the triangle ends are complete. I'm actually gonna do one more thing. I'm going to flip the bracelet like so. That way, all of the knots that were previously on the front are gonna be hidden at the back of the bracelet, and we get a nice clean start with no knots. You can skip this step if you want to, maybe you prefer the look of this. Some people do. I'm just gonna flip it for my bracelet. The bracelet itself, the tutorial itself, is actually super easy. It's literally just a chevron that is connected to another chevron. So once we get to that, it's gonna go super quickly. The borderline difficult part, which is also relatively easy, is actually how to start it with triangle ends, which is why this portion of the video is taking up a little bit extra time. So once again, I'm just gonna explain it on the left side, and then you do the exact same thing on the right side. Then I'm gonna tell you how to connect it after. So we're literally just making a chevron, except because it started in a triangle shape like this, we're gonna have less and less knots at the beginning, and then we're gonna get into the full chevron. So we start off by doing literally just 1 knot, and that is going to be between these 2 dark blue strings in the center of this triangle. So just make any knot between them because they're the same color. I'm just gonna do a forward knot. And then hopefully you're familiar with the chevron shape, which is what we're going to be continuing to do throughout this entire tutorial. We're going to take the light blue string on the left, coming off from the left side of that triangle end, and we're going to do a forward knot onto the dark blue string here, just in a regular chevron shape. That's how we start. And then we're going to grab the light blue string off of the right side of the triangle end, and we're going to do a backward knot on the other blue string here. Now we've got 2 of the light blue strings in the center, we're going to do a knot between them. I'm just going to do a forward knot. We're now going to grab the next color, which is the dark pink. Starting on the left side, again, this is just a regular chevron. So we've got the string coming off from the left, which is going to do 2 forward knots, 1 on the dark blue first, then on the light blue. Then on the left side, we've got another dark pink string, which is going to do 2 backward knots on the dark blue and then on the light blue. And then they're going to meet in the center and we're going to do a knot between them. Just a regular chevron shape. I'm going to do that real quick. If that happens and some string pops through, like it did for me here, I'm gonna put my finger here. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a light pink string coming out from that knot where it shouldn't be. Gently place my finger here and pull on that string, which isn't supposed to be in that knot. And there we go, it popped right out. I'm gonna tighten that. And maybe use my nail to push it right up there and continue making the knots that I'm making. Alright, there we go, the dark pink is done, and now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and then we're going to connect these triangle ends. Alright, so for the last piece to connect the triangle ends, we're going to be working with the light pink. We're first going to connect the 2 light pink strings in the center in a forward or a backward knot. This is probably the hardest part of everything, as connecting 2 triangle ends is always quite tricky. So do this knot quite carefully. You really want to get them in together. Maybe even place your finger on there to keep that in place, and carefully tie that knot together. Once those 2 knots are tied together, we're going to do what we're going to continue doing with the pattern, and we're just going to be doing 2 chevrons, one on the left and one on the right. Let's start with the one on the right first. The 2 outermost strings here are going to be the pink strings, and we're just going to be doing a regular chevron shape with them. The string on the left is going to go in forward knots along each of these strings individually, so first on the dark blue, middle blue, dark pink, and the string on the right is going to go in backward knots on each of these strings in order, first on the dark blue, middle blue, and then pink. And then once they get to the center, they're going to do a knot between each other, which is going to be a forward or a backward knot, whichever you prefer. And now that that side is done, we're going to do the exact same thing on the left. These 2 outermost pink strings are going to go in a chevron shape to the center of this piece. The left one does forward knots along each of the strings, the right one does backward knots along each of the strings. They meet in the center and do a knot between each other. Alright, there we go, the 2 triangle ends are finished and connected, and now we're completely ready to start making the bracelet. It's kind of funny because the tutorial is pretty much exactly like the last step we just did, but let's go over it again. So at this point you can notice that the string order is the exact same as I explained in the beginning for if you were making a different kind of start. So if you were making an overhand knot as a start, your string order should be exactly the same as we have here. Dark blue, light blue, dark pink, light pink. Same on the other side, dark blue, dark pink, light pink. And then here from the middle we've got 2 dark blues followed by 2 light blues, 2 dark pinks, and 2 light pinks. So we started at different points if you were doing a different kind of start, but we are now at the same point in the string order. So let's talk about how we're going to make this bracelet. It's literally just 1 row for the beginning. We're repeating the same row over and over again, and that row is literally just 2 chevrons that are connected in the center. So to connect those chevrons, we take the 2 strings in the center, which are dark blue for me, which is going to be the color of the chevron for this row, and we're just going to be doing a knot between them, which for me is going to be a forward knot. And then I'm going to focus on the right side. We're just going to be doing a regular chevron shape, which hopefully you are familiar with. We take the 2 outermost strings. The one on the left does 3 forward knots along each of these strings individually. So 1 on the light blue, then the dark pink, then the light pink. This one does 3 backward knots on those strings in order, as well in the same order. And then once those 2 strings are in the center, you make a knot between them. I'm going to be making a forward knot, but it can be any knot since they're both the same color. So just a regular chevron shape that we connected just now to the other side. Alright, the chevron on the right side is done. Let's focus on the left side. It's going to be the exact same thing. Another chevron shape. We've got another dark blue string coming out here from the right, another dark blue string on the left, just a regular chevron shape. This string goes into 3 forward knots, this string goes into 3 backward knots. They meet in the center and do a knot between them. And there we go, that's done, that's literally it. We repeat that same exact row with all of the colors. So now the color that is in the middle is the light blue. So that's the color that we're going to be working with for this row, or whichever colors you are working with. And you do that over and over again until this part of the bracelet reaches the length that you want. And that length is going to be different depending on how long you want it to be, how long your bracelet is going to be. That's all completely individual, and it's kind of trial and error for you to figure out how long exactly you want it to be. Obviously you want the beginning part to be the same length as the last part, and then you're also going to have the part in the middle where the 2 chevrons are separate and you're going to be twisting them. So keep that into account when you try to figure out how long you want this to be. Typically my bracelets are roughly 15 centimeters in length. So if you want to do that and you want each of those parts to be about a third, you would make this for 5 centimeters, then make the other bit for 5 centimeters, and then the last bit for 5 centimeters. But again, this is completely up to you and personal, so do whatever size you like. So I'm gonna go do mine off camera, and then we're gonna catch up about how to split these up and do the twist part. Alright, so at this point I've roughly made 5 centimeters, which is what I want to go for in length. So now I'm going to be splitting up the 2 connected chevrons into 2 separate chevrons. And this is extremely easy to do. We're going to be doing the exact same thing as we've been doing all along, except we're not going to be doing the knot in the middle. So for a typical row, we would start by doing a knot in the middle between the 2 strings. Currently that's light blue for me. This time we're not going to do that. We're going to skip that part and we're just going to do 2 chevrons. So I'm going to put all the strings on the right off to the side, just focus on the left side. Just do a regular chevron as you would with these 2 outermost strings, the light blue. This one goes to the right in forward knots, this one goes to the left in backward knots. They meet in the center, they do a knot between them. So it's exactly the same, we're just not doing the first knot between the 2 strings in the middle. There we go, that chevron is done and it isn't connected to the bracelet in the center. Now we're going to put the left strings off to the side and do the same exact thing on the right side with these 2 outermost strings, just a regular chevron shape as we've been doing previously. And there we go, we've got 2 chevrons that aren't connected. And that's it, you continue doing that. You just do 2 separate chevrons now. And you do that for however long you want to. I want all the pieces to be equal, so I did 5 centimeters of them connected. I'm gonna do about 5 centimeters of them being not connected, and then I'm gonna connect them again and do another 5 centimeters. But depending on how you want yours to look, do this for however long you want. I'm gonna go do this off camera, and then I'm gonna show you how to connect them back. Alright, so I've done roughly 5 more centimeters of just the 2 separate chevrons. Now comes the twist. You can either twist this way or this way, whatever you prefer. I think I'm gonna do this. So we twist, and now we need to reconnect the 2 chevrons in the middle. So we're going back to what we were originally doing with the knot in the middle and then the chevrons. That's how we reconnect them. Let me get a better angle. Alright, so I've just twisted these 2 chevrons like you saw me do. You can kind of still see the outline there. I've just taped over it. Now we're gonna, as I said, continue doing what we were doing before. So the only difference is now we are going back to making that knot between the 2 middle strings. So let's do that first knot, and that first knot is actually going to be very careful because we're once again connecting 2 unconnected parts. So we're going to be very careful with our placement of that knot. I'm actually going to hold my finger there to sort of keep it in place while I carefully tie it together. And then, as always, we're just going to continue doing our chevrons as we did at the start. I'm going to do the one on the right first, and then going to do the one on the left. So again, the dark blue goes into the center in forward knots. This dark blue on the other side goes into the center in backward knots. They meet, do a knot between them, just like we've been doing. And same thing on the other side, we're just going to be doing a chevron like we always did. And there we go, we've done the first row in which we've connected the 2 chevrons back together. From here, we're going to be doing the exact same thing as we did at the start, just the 2 chevrons connected this time. So we start with a knot at the center and then do the 2 chevrons. And that's how we're going to finish the bracelet. I'm going to go finish this bracelet off camera, and I'll see you once I'm done. And I finished the bracelet off with triangle ends. Thankfully, the bracelet was already in a shape to finish with triangle ends as we were doing 2 chevrons. So there's nothing special about how I did this here. I'm just going to refer you to the triangle ends tutorial that I did in a separate video. I'll leave that linked in the description in order to save time here. And here we go. This is what the bracelet looks like in the end. And this is it from the back, in case you were curious. I really love this design. I think it is so fun. And the fact that these are literally 2 separate pieces is also super fun to me. You can twist it in either direction, you can make this piece longer or shorter. I decided to make mine roughly equal so that then it kind of looks equal on the wrist, but I think it can look cool either way. You could also potentially have different colors for this side and that side, although it would be more difficult to create a loop if you're having them different colors, though that is still possible. I have a tutorial on my channel for that kind of loop. I'll leave that linked in the card and in the description for you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you make this bracelet, make sure to tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see your creations. And feel free to leave comments comments as well. I'll try to answer as many as I can, and I know that there are plenty of helpful people as well in the comments section. If you're looking for more ways to learn, my book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, which is a collection of photo tutorials specifically for beginners that takes you all the way from the basics to more advanced stuff, is now out worldwide. You can purchase it anywhere you typically buy books, and I also have a direct purchase link in the description if you want to use that. It can also be a great gift to bring people into the art of making friendship bracelet. Before I go, I also want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters. Thank you so much. It is with your help that I'm able to create the videos that I do. And if you also want to become a patron and support the work that I do on this channel, the link to that is in the description. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!